What if I told you you can support the conservation of a shark, a polar bear, a penguin, a sea turtle, and other animals by buying a bracelet? That's right. We're going to talk about how you can do that and why I am supporting Tank, the silky shark, with Fallow. We're going to talk about that on this episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. Let's start the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin. This is the podcast where you find out what's happening with the ocean, how you can speak up for the ocean, and what you can do to live for a better ocean by taking action. And today we're going to be talking about taking action. We're going to be talking about a company named Fallow, F-A-H-L-O. It's myfallow.com if you want to go to their website. They are a company that supports a lot of different conservation organizations to help them do their work and track their animals. All you have to do is buy a bracelet for like $25. It's pretty simple to do. And how did I find out about this organization? I actually got it as a Christmas gift. I got this wonderful bracelet that I'm looking at right now that I have on right now from my daughter. She got me a shark. It's a bracelet with a little shark on it. And when I wear this bracelet, I'm reminded of a shark that I helped track. So essentially, these organizations that are in partnership with Fallow work to track animals to help them in their conservation. We're going to talk about what that really means. But this company went out and said, hey, you know what? We want to support organizations. So we're going to sell products, and then part of the proceeds of those products are going to go towards those organizations. Now, this company was formed in 2018, and since 2018, they've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to these organizations. And some of these organizations are quite well known. We have the Sea Turtle Conservancy, which is quite well known. We have Polar Bears International, which is probably the largest organization that helps save and conserve polar bears and does research on polar bears. Saving the Blue, which is if you support or if you buy a shark bracelet, that is who you are supporting. And by who, I mean Annie Guttridge and Tristan Guttridge, Dr. Tristan Guttridge, who have actually Tristan Guttridge, who I've had on the Beyond Jaws podcast with Dr. David Eber, my co-host, when we talked a lot about Saving the Blue and how they raise money and funds to do the work that they do and understand sharks more in the Florida waters. And they go out and they tag sharks and they find out their distribution. So it's really great. Saving the Blue is in there. We have Global Penguin Society, which is there. And then, of course, there's the Marine Conservation Lab at Florida International University. And there's just so many more. It's just, and there's also, you can also help track lions and giraffes. What else here? We got elephants. We got gorillas too, which is their newest edition. And they were just launched in November 2023. So these are all, great ways that you can support these organizations in the work that they do just by buying a bracelet. Now, this is not a new model. This is a model that's been around for quite some time, where you buy a bracelet or you buy a product, whether it's a t-shirt or something, and that money goes towards those organizations. Something I've been contemplating for a while, because I'm trying to find ways to not only sell products, but also have a revenue generating model using the podcast, but also, supporting organizations, because I can't do anything without having some kind of reciprocation with an organization that does great work. So this is something that I'm would like to explore, and I really love what Fallow has done here. And it's essentially just by buying a bracelet. I think that's what the best thing is you can buy these bracelets. Each bracelet tracks a real animal. So you can choose what you want. So you can have the Journey bracelet, the Expedition bracelet, the Voyage bracelet, the Venture bracelet, the Passage bracelet, the Odyssey bracelet. Like, it's the Excursion, the Trek, and the Traverse bracelet. So all these different types, and each one represents a different animal, I guess. And you can choose the animal that you would like to support. And I just think that's great. And you can collect more than one. You can collect them all right? They're great as gifts. They're great as birthday gifts. They're great as Christmas gifts. It seems like the shipping is really good. I've looked at reviews of people, and people, especially before the holidays, ordered a number of them. Some ordered 3, some ordered 2, and they would just be like, hey, we're going to order them before our holidays, so say Christmas, and then hopefully you'll get there before. And they said, hey, the shipments got there before, which is absolutely fantastic. So I love to see this type of work and this type of sales model go back towards the thing, and then you can track and you see what you're tracking. So for instance, for mine, my silky shark is named Tank, and according to the description, Tank is a male silky shark tagged in Jupiter, Florida. Male silky sharks reach maturity when they are 7 to 10 years old and are between 200 and 230 centimeters long. Tank is 265 centimeters long and was observed in the area with some mature females who displayed visible mating scars, suggesting he may have been there to mate. And then, so I can go and I can look at some major things. So the distance since the last location, he's actually traveled about 4.5 kilometers. Cumulative distances since he's been tagged is over 1,800 kilometers. Average speed is about 0.3 kilometers per hour. And average speed since release is about 0.23. Average speed since last location is 0.34 kilometers per hour. Average speed since his release has been 0.23 kilometers per hour. So really cool information. It gives you the information on Saving the Blue, which is the organization that's a part of. And so this is really helpful. It says you directly help save wildlife with every order. It's as simple as that. And I just think it's really great. Then you can go and you can look at you can see the picture of the silky shark. And then, of course, you can go and you can view Tank's journey. So there's a full-on map. It's Apple Maps. And it goes by essentially where it was first tagged. And then it follows it all over the place. And what's really interesting is you can see, sometimes there's a couple of days between pings. Sometimes it's like a week between pings. But you can just see how far and sort of the path that it takes. I'm looking at Tank's track right now. It looks like he went to the Bahamas at one point and then followed like a canyon, it looks like, and just followed that canyon up into Florida waters, just off the coast of Florida, and started like zigzagging in and around here. I assume that's the mating area during this time, and now has gone south towards Miami and is kind of hanging out there. The last ping was December 26th, 6:11 a.m. And this really provides a lot of information for researchers, but also provides a lot of information, like almost like a direct feedback of like, hey, what's Tank up to today? Where is he today? It's a really great way to track, where animals are going and what type of animals are going. And I just think these tracking studies are very important to really look at protection. When I was in university, in grad school, during my master's, I really focused on marine protected areas and how to design marine protected areas based on, for me, was macroinvertebrates, lobsters, crabs, shrimp, and so forth, and looking at their distribution along the Scotian Shelf, which is, in Canada, just off of Nova Scotia. And so I was looking at Bay of Fundy, Nova Scotian Shelf, and I was looking at, are there specific areas where these animals sort of typify areas and, what we expect to see there, but are there specific sort of assemblages? So I was looking at more of a community level where this is individual level. But my point is, looking at these maps, looking at sort of the tracking of where the size of these areas are and how they move on a yearly basis really provides managers and policymakers with information to say, hey, you know what, we're going to make this marine protected area this size, and then it could move around based on where we need to go and where the highest biodiversity area is, and we're going to protect those areas. And I just think, having, when you this is like areas where like these are, what we typically find, so macroinvertebrates we typically find, but then you have, species such as sharks and sea turtles and whales and dolphins where they are, they travel hundreds of kilometers a day. And so to be able to look at where they are and their patterns allows us to better manage and understand and manage these organisms, right? These species, which is so important. I can't tell you how important this is. And so when we have this type of information, not only from a sort of like an outsider who's not a part of this study, but when managers have this information, they can do something with it. They can look at the overall pattern over a year and over seasons and where they go. For instance, O-Search, I know they are considered controversial, even though they really aren't, according to a lot of researchers, but they are all over the place. Like they show up a general pattern. In the winter, these great white sharks are in Jupiter, Florida. In the summer, they're around Cape Cod. And so we know the patterns that they use, and then every once in a while there's one that'll shoot out to the mid-Atlantic, bite, and come back. We know where these animals go now because they've been tagged, and we understand from like at least a short-term view where they go on a yearly and seasonal basis. And hopefully over time, as this information accumulates, we're going to find out where these sharks go and where these sea turtles go and where these dolphins go and where these penguins go and where these polar bears go, so that we can better protect it, whether it be from a marine protected area standpoint, whether it be from understanding where there's feeding areas and upwellings and where these animals will congregate. We can protect those areas, those important habitats. This information is so important. And I remember, this is relatively new, from a decadal standpoint, this information. I remember when I was, again, being in grad school and learning about the consensus of marine life, which was a global project by a number of different researchers and nonprofit organizations and governments that wanted to find out as much information as possible of all animals in the ocean. So the census of marine life, this is what they wanted to find. And tagging was fairly new. I think at that point, a few species had been tagged and we found out some really important information. If you ever look at sort of the history with Dr. Jay Nichols, he talks about the first time they tagged a sea turtle, and they found out that sea turtle that was tagged in Baja California went to Japan, like across the Pacific Ocean. Phenomenal news. And there's all these other different ways of tagging, and the old school way of tagging without satellite tags was there was pit tagging, and even before that there was just like you tag with almost like a license plate. Not as big, obviously, but it's like a license plate. It's like a little tag, and it's like a little metal piece. And then if it's found somewhere on a turtle, that person is told to either call a specific number or email specific email, and then say, hey, I found your tag and here's the number on it. And then they would be able to say, where are you and where did you find this tag, and can you give us some information? And people would participate then. Great way of doing things, great way of getting people involved, but that wasn't always perfect. Here, you can find out as soon as that satellite tag pings that satellite, you can find out where that shark is. If it stops pinging, after a year or so, it could fall off, maybe even shorter than that. And it's just, the technology is just phenomenal. And what it's done for sharks and other species has been unprecedented in terms of let's figure out what we need to do to better understand these animals and better manage these animals and conserve them. And so, having a gift like this given to me is absolutely wonderful. Obviously I'm going to get more of these bracelets because they're a lot of fun. I am just interested in seeing how this app works and the information that comes with it. You can have a whole roster of animals. I almost feel like I want to choose one of each and just see what happens and where those animals are. And I just think it's a wonderful way to get people involved in conservation. It's a wonderful way to provide information to people and just be like, hey, this is what your animal's done. And this is what the overall species, this is where the overall species is in terms of conservation. And I just think that information is so valuable. And it's almost like a citizen science kind of thing where you just provide the funds, right? Just like the OCCs for the island of Niue, right? Where you could support a square kilometer in their marine protected area so that you can fund that marine protected area work and the enforcement and the management for 20 years down the road. Just by paying, I think it was like just over $170 American. But you help protect and conserve ocean. It democratizes, ocean protection and research and marine biology and marine science and conservation. That's what it does. And that's what I love about this program. And that's what I love about these companies. There are a lot of companies out there that do this, but there's a lot of research that needs to be done. There's a lot of organizations that need to be supported. And having this tracking is phenomenal because it really helps, what you can do and what you can actually see. I feel as though people who want to support organizations want to see where their money is going. Buying a bracelet helps support an animal being tagged, right? That is extremely helpful, right? When you start buying these bracelets, all you have to do is just purchase a bracelet. You don't even have to wear it if you don't want to. You can keep it as a collection item in your room or in your house or in your apartment somewhere. But just by buying it, by spending $25, you're supporting the conservation of a species and the research that help lead to a conservation of a species. And it just helps people like myself who can't donate hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But it provides us with the way of just giving that little bit to support, and we get something in return. And we get to show. So if I wear it and somebody's like, oh, what's this? Hey, I want to tell you about this. This is Tank. This represents the Tank, that the silky shark that I helped conserve, or I helped, with this tag, or I'm helped supporting with this tag. Like that's cool. That kind of gives you not necessarily ownership, but it gives you that sense of I supported this animal and this is important to me. And I think that's really helpful. So I would love to know, like, if I considered doing something like this, would it have to be a tagged animal, or would you want to go towards an organization that's supporting, fishing villages, or that's supporting marine protected area management, or what would you want to support if you were to do something similar to this? I would really love to hear your thoughts. You can either DM me on Instagram at How to Protect the Ocean. That's at How to Protect the Ocean. Or you can email me by going to speakupforblue.com/contact, fill out the email, and or fill out the form. It'll go right to my email and I'll respond back. And then that's essentially it. So lots of ways to get a hold of me. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this. So the question again is, would you, first of all, do something like this, like at Fallow, or would you consider supporting other things by buying and purchasing stuff and having something to follow or having some information? What information would you want? So I'd love to hear your answers to that. So DM me at How to Protect the Ocean on Instagram, at How to Protect the Ocean, or go to speakupforblue.com/contact. And of course, if somebody like this that that wants to do something similar and support organizations, they want to know Fallow, you can go to myfahlo.com. It's Fahlo, so myfahlo.com, and you can get a hold of that, or you can just send them this episode by copying the link in the podcast app that you love and then sending it to that person, and then they get to listen to this and make the decision for themselves. I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin. Have a great day. I'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.